If Florida is known for anything, it's our beaches, and with an estimated 825 miles of sandy shoreline to explore, there's definitely no shortage of them down here. Everybody in Florida seems to have a favorite beach, the ones they like to keep to themselves, and the ones they even try to avoid. But what makes a beach a favorite or popular or famous is pretty subjective. One of my own favorites may not be one of yours. What I love about a certain beach, you might not be too crazy about. So today we're going to visit some of the best and most popular beaches on Florida's Gulf Coast, in no particular order, and give each one kind of a made-up award that makes each one special. Kind of like high school yearbook superlatives. And since the Gulf beaches and the Atlantic beaches definitely have a lot of differences and their own character, in this one we're only going to be looking at the Gulf Coast beaches. The best Atlantic Coast beaches will be coming up in part 2. And remember, this isn't the correct list, it's just my list. Let me know in the comments what your own favorite Gulf Coast beaches are. Or don't, if you want to keep them your own little secret. So let's go, Florida's 10 best beaches, Gulf Coast edition. Best beach for watching the sunset. Now, of course, you'll have a perfect seat to watch the sunset into the Gulf on literally any beach on the west coast of Florida. But for this one, I had to go with Clearwater Beach. And simply because Clearwater Beach is a place that celebrates the sunset each and every night like no other place. Well, except maybe Key West. Key West is known for their nightly sunset festivals in Mallory Square too, but Clearwater does their own really good version of this. Pier 60 is a giant fishing pier that juts out into the Gulf, and the views out there really are spectacular, but this entire area comes to life for the Sunsets at Pier 60 Festival that happens every single night. There's live music, there's an art fair where local artists will showcase and sell their work right along the pier, and lots of buskers and street performers. It's a really lively scene down here for this, and when the sun finally approaches the horizon, everybody kind of goes quiet for a few moments to watch the sun sink below the sea. And sometimes, just after it does, there's even a bit of applause. And I know it does sound pretty corny to think of a bunch of people standing on the beach applauding the sunset, but it is actually kind of touching to be there and witness in person. I really do like it when that happens. I would also give Clearwater Beach the award for most activities, since there is a lot of stuff to do around here, with all the typical beach town tourist stuff like dolphin watching tours, fishing excursions, jet ski rentals, sunset cruises, pirate ship cruises, and the Clearwater Marine Aquarium is right here. You got all that stuff. And unfortunately, I'd probably also award Clearwater the best beach for sitting in traffic. Yeah, traffic here can be pretty bad, especially on weekends, holidays, and spring break. The causeway coming over the intercoastal can be backed up for miles during busy times, and parking around here can be a little bit of a struggle too. It's definitely one of the most popular tourist beaches in Florida with big crowds, that's for sure. Best beach for building a sandcastle. One of the things that makes Florida's Gulf Coast beaches so special is the fine white sugar sand that's pretty much one of the defining characteristics of these beaches. While the East Coast beaches are going to have more of that typical coarser honey-colored sand, most beaches on the Gulf have sand that's like fine white powder. And Siesta Key Beach in Sarasota is said to have the finest, whitest sand in Florida, if not the entire world. The sand on Siesta Key is 99% quartz, so it's brilliantly white and it's so soft to the touch that walking on this beach barefoot almost feels like you're walking through powdered sugar. It's perfect for dipping your toes in and just as perfect for building the perfect sandcastle. The Siesta Key Crystal Classic International Sand Sculpting Competition is held here every November, and seeing what world-class sand artists can do is really amazing. Hard to believe this kind of thing is even possible with beach sand. Siesta Key is probably my own personal favorite beach in Florida. It's just beautiful, the sand is perfect, and it's pretty popular with both locals and tourists, but it's not like totally overwhelmed with stuff like Clearwater is. That's not to say it doesn't get busy. It definitely can get crowded here on weekends, and 4th of July especially brings huge crowds here for the fireworks along the beach. And on Sundays, there's even a giant drum circle that takes place on the beach right before sunset. Everybody's welcome to join in, and it's actually a really good time. Best beach for finding shark's teeth and fossils. Venice Beach, just a little south of Sarasota, is famous for all the fossilized shark's teeth that can be found here just by dragging a sifter through the sand. You can find shark's teeth all over the beach south of the fishing pier, but the absolute best spot, the self-proclaimed shark tooth capital of the world, is actually Caspersen Beach. That's just about 2 miles south of the Venice fishing pier. So Caspersen is actually a pretty unusual beach, especially for the Gulf Coast. The shore is pretty rocky and the sand is really coarse and shelly. It's not really the best beach for walking around barefoot, but this is the best spot for finding shark's teeth in the sand. And just about every time you come here, there will be people out there sifting through the sand, looking to take home a few free souvenirs. Now, most of the teeth you do find here are going to be pretty small, but it's not totally unheard of for a lucky beachcomber to find a rare great white or even a megalodon tooth here. The reason why there are so many fossils here is a bit beyond the scope of this video, but long story short, there's some unique geology here just offshore that keeps churning up millions of years worth of shark's teeth that have been buried under the sand, and the waves kind of just bring up and deposit them on the shore. Shark tooth hunting here is a lot of fun and it's very relaxing, and there's a little rush every time you do find one. Best beach for living like a local. There are lots of beaches in Florida that are more popular with locals than tourists, but sometimes you might even want to live like a local for a little while. Kind of enjoy the beach and the town like you live there and you're not just a visitor. For this, my favorite beach on Florida's Gulf Coast is going to be Anna Maria Island. That's near Bradenton, Florida, just south of the Tampa Bay area. What I and so many others love about Anna Maria Island is that it's managed to keep its own character and small town charm, despite being so close to big places like St. Pete and Sarasota. And there are local laws here that don't allow high-rises or chain restaurants on the island. So most of the businesses are going to be small, local, mom-and-pop type places. There aren't any big hotel chains on the island either, so most of the accommodations are going to be boutique hotels and home rentals, Airbnbs, things like that. It's a great place to unwind for the week, ride a bike around town, hang out at the beach, go fishing, eat some local seafood and ice cream, and just kind of live here and be here for a bit. There are things to do, but it's not overwhelmingly touristy, and the beach here is beautiful. Best beach for playing like a tourist. And you know, while it's nice to spend a week in a laid-back, non-touristy place like Anna Maria Island, sometimes it's fun to spend some time in a place that's the exact opposite. Big resort hotels, touristy gift shops, tacky chain restaurants, mini golf, tourist attractions, and a party-like atmosphere on the beach are a guilty pleasure for some of us. And if that's what you're looking for, look no further than Panama City Beach. Panama City Beach has been a long-time spring break destination and has earned a bit of a reputation as kind of a rowdy beach town, but honestly, on a recent family trip here, I found that was only half true. Yep, it can be a rowdy party town if that's what you're looking for, especially during the month of March while spring break is in full swing, but it's also a really family-friendly destination with lots to do. And sure, some of us may think it's a little bit tacky. It's one of those places with tons of high-rises running along the beach for miles, lots of t-shirt and Florida souvenir shops, go-karts, mini golf, and of course, a Ripley's Believe It or Not museum. You're not a real tourist town until you have one of those. But something that pleasantly surprised me on a family trip we took here is that Panama City Beach is actually really nice. The hotels and businesses along the main drag all felt very well-kept and welcoming. Before going here for the first time, I think I was ready to compare it to Daytona Beach, which I personally think is a place that's seen better days. But no, Panama City feels like they've kept the place up, and I would not hesitate to come back here with my family. And just because this place has lots of big hotels and tourist stuff and all that, it doesn't mean the beach isn't nice. The beach itself is among the best in the state, with fine powder white sand that honestly I think is every bit as soft and white as the sand at Siesta Key, and the water is some of the bluest I've ever seen in Florida. You really can't go wrong with any of these Emerald Coast beaches on the Panhandle. The Panhandle has some of the nicest beaches in Florida. Best beach for feeling like you're in the Caribbean. And speaking of fine white sand and clear blue water, it's really hard to top the beaches of Destin, Florida. This is the heart of the Emerald Coast, and these beaches are known for being some of the clearest, nicest blue water in the U.S. On some days, these beaches rival the turquoise blue water you'll find in the Caribbean. And for the most quintessential Destin experience, you'll want to make sure you plan a day on Crab Island. It's not much of an island anymore, but a shallow sandbar that sits in water so clear and blue, you might think you're in the Bahamas. And on weekends, this is one of the biggest beach parties in Florida. Hundreds of people will gather out here in boats and kayaks to hang out here and party and hang out and just chill in the water. And the people around here really know how to do this in style. Crab Island is a lifestyle. There's even some boats with live bands or DJs on them playing music for the crowd, some restaurant boats, floating obstacle courses, and all kinds of craziness. And if you come out here to Destin, you don't have to have your own boat to come out here. You can actually get a Crab Island excursion tour that will take you out here for the day. So you don't even need to worry about bringing your own boat or any of that stuff. They'll do all the work for you. Best beach for seashell collecting. Off of Florida's southwest coast near Fort Myers, the beaches on Sanibel Island have been called the seashell capital of the world for the huge number and huge varieties of shells that can be found here. Seashell collecting is such a popular activity here on Sanibel that locals even have a nickname for the pose that beachgoers make when searching the sand: the Sanibel Stoop. Seashells can of course be found at any beach in Florida, but what makes Sanibel such a hot spot for shelling is that while most of the barrier islands run parallel to mainland Florida, Sanibel sticks out at a perpendicular angle. And that kind of acts as a giant natural barrier that stops all the shells that have been tumbling along the coast in the waves, and they all kind of get bunched up right here. And Sanibel's next door neighbor, Captiva Island, is another great beach town to visit too. At the time this video was posted though, both of these places are still kind of recovering from Hurricane Ian, so just keep that in mind before you plan to visit, since right now they're still not really fully back to normal just yet. Best beach for pretending you're on a deserted island. There are a few barrier islands off Florida's Gulf Coast that are only reachable by boat, and to get out there, you'll need to either take your own boat or take a ferry service that a few of them have. And these are some of the absolute best beaches in Florida if you really want to escape the crowds, since they are not quite as easy to reach for most people. And for this category, I'm actually going to cheat a little bit and name two of them that I think are worth mentioning here. Caladesi Island State Park in Dunedin, that's not too far from Clearwater, and Cayo Costa State Park, which is not too far from Fort Myers. Both of these barrier islands are only reachable by boat, which usually keeps the crowds kind of thin, and once you're out here, it's just you and the gulls. These are great places for pretending it's your own little deserted island for the day. Both of these places are pristine little getaways to some of the most beautiful beaches in Florida. Cayo Costa State Park near Fort Myers is actually part of the same chain of barrier islands as Sanibel and Captiva Islands. But unlike those ones, there is no development on Cayo Costa other than a little campground, and the only way to get out here is by boat. You can take your own, but there are some ferry trips that will take you out here too from nearby Captiva Island. Just don't miss the ferry back or you'll be sleeping out. Caladesi Island State Park near Clearwater Beach is only reachable by boat. There's no real development out here either, but there is a boardwalk and a little marina here for those who took their own boat to get out here, with a little snack bar and some restrooms. It may be a remote island, but there's at least a few creature comforts out here, and you're not going to be completely off the grid. If you don't have your own boat, you can get here by taking a quick ferry ride from nearby Honeymoon Island State Park, which is another great beach that's worth checking out. I did a video review on Honeymoon Island that I'll link to in the description if you want to check that place out. Best beach for unspoiled coastal Florida beauty. While it's not an island that you can only reach by boat, St. Joseph Peninsula State Park in the Florida Panhandle may as well be. It has a pretty remote location, it's not very close to anything, and because of that, it's one of the least visited state park beaches in Florida. It's near the small town of Port St. Joe, but the nearest relatively large town, Panama City, is over 30 miles away, and not many people are venturing out here most days. And that's a shame because St. Joseph Peninsula State Park is one of the most unspoiled natural beaches in Florida, if not the entire country. It's absolutely beautiful. The park has over 10 miles of sandy white beaches that runs north to south along a thin peninsula that sticks out of Florida's forgotten coast, creating a really unusual kind of fishhook looking thing coming off the coastline here. And there really is almost nothing out here but sea, the surf, and some of the biggest, most beautiful sand dunes in Florida. Best family beach. When I think a beach is good for families, to me that means prioritizing ease and convenience. When you're having a beach day with kids, you probably don't want to be dealing with parking really far away and dragging all your stuff like a half mile to the beach. And when you do go with little kids, you're usually going to be carrying a lot of stuff, and it's usually going to be the grown-ups doing all the carrying. And that's why for me, my favorite Florida family-friendly beach, that's hard to say, on the Gulf Coast is Pass-A-Grille in St. Pete. Pass-A-Grille Beach is a quaint and quirky little beach town with little restaurants and ice cream places, but what we love about this place is pretty simple. The parking is right here behind the dunes, so you have a very short little walk to the beach. No dragging all your heavy stuff on a long hike. You can just park and cross one of these little boardwalks right here and you're there. But this beach really isn't that big, and these spots can be kind of hard to get on weekends, so your best chance to get out here is in the morning if you can, or what we usually do, because I don't like to get up early in the morning, is get here later in the day, like after 3 p.m. when some of the people who have been here all day are starting to clear out. A little bit later in the day is a great time to get parking here, and it's summertime, so the sun is going to be out pretty late anyway. But other than the simple reason that parking here is usually as convenient as any beach I've ever been to, Pass-A-Grille is really just a nice beach with a really great atmosphere. The sand here is actually quite shelly and coarse compared to other beaches around here that usually have that white sugar sand, but this beach is still one of my own personal favorites. Love Pass-A-Grille. Alright, so that's going to do it for my own personal top 10 best beaches on Florida's Gulf Coast. Let me know in the comments which one of these is your favorite if you've been to any of these. Maybe share one of your own personal favorites that I didn't mention. And as always, please like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you'll be notified about my next video. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.